Well, I just brought this back from the Goodwill auction site locally. It was local pickup and I won the auction. And this is a home-built cabinet for a car radio. And I didn't know what kind of car radio until I looked around the back and made some discovery. You might be able to see that there are civil defense markings here. A little over 600 and a little over 1200 on the AM kilohertz scale. So that dates this radio to 1963 or earlier, I would say. And it's in a home-made cabinet. Beautiful wood, very thick. Speaker behind here, lots of little woodworking embellishments and things. It's not a plain cabinet at all. The feet are nice. It weighs 24 pounds, a little more. It's a heavy beast. It's 22 inches long. It's about 10.5 inches high and 10 inches deep. When I got this, I had no idea what make of car this radio went to. Finally looking in the back, I was able to get some clues. And this is apparently made by Delco in Kokomo, Indiana, which is not too far from me. And they had a electronics making operation for many years. They probably employed 25 or 30,000 people. Big old traditional electronics company. And there's a build by in here of a man who built it. And he lived not too far from there. He lived in a town called Russiaville, Indiana. So I'm pretty sure this was a Delco radio. He probably got it from work. For a while I thought maybe it was some type of officially thing made for Delco to demonstrate their radio, but with no badging on it or anything, it's not likely they would have produced something like this for the company without some pride of badgemanship on it. But other clues inside showed me that this was probably a Mopar Model 331 radio from 1963, and it was the 331 was for the Dodge Polara 500. Let's look around back. I'll show you some of the things I found. Right here's the back of the radio. That's the DS501, and that looks like a date code of 1962, 51st week. And the DS501 transistors before this, as near as I can research, were blue, and they were germanium. But Delco switched to silicone transistors for the 62 model year, or 63, I forget which. Here's where we'll plug in our antenna to listen to the radio. And under here, stuck on the bottom, was a label. That's the first thing that I could really find that helped me identify what model radio this was and what kind of car it was for. So I saw that with my digital inspection camera. This is a good place to show how thick this wood on this enclosure is. I mean, the thing is a really heavy beast. And there's screw holes in it. He must have had a masonite back on it at one time. But it's an impressive piece of carpentry. Speakers, a Sony ES S92, and these were car speakers. 6 inches by 9 inch, 4 ohms, 80 watts, made in Taiwan. And here's our transformer, and the little piece of paper is just sort of fallen off the transformer. These little capacitor structures are kind of interesting. Aerovox capacitors dated 6312. They have some other component on them. I have to admit I'm not sure what that's for. They're not marked. The whole thing is mounted on a sheet of 1/4 inch plexiglass, which is kind of an interesting mounting selection. We have a couple of 3-stage capacitors. Certain what those components go to. You'll notice some writing there. If you were able to look in the way I am, you'll be able to see that this is built by, let's call him Mr. Robertson. City down here, Russiaville, Indiana, which you can't see too good. Russiaville is certainly within commuting distance of Delco and Kokomo. You notice in the back there, or actually towards the front, that the actual plate for the mounting of the radio is much wider than the radio is. I don't know if that's the way it was in the car or not. I haven't seen a picture of this radio mounted in a car. The inside of the heatsink here is another transistor. It's the Delco GM DS503, and it's red, so I'm assuming it's silicone as well. So that's what we have inside the back. That's the workings. An impressive cabinet, and really a completely impressive build of the whole thing. As you saw in the back, this entire plate is bigger than it needs to be. The actual radio is only the chromed part there. Over here on the speaker, you'll notice this has probably 2 pieces of wood joined together too, because there's little splits here. Alright, well, let's try it out and see if it works at all. I've got this little aftermarket antenna plugged into the back, and this is the same antenna I used on another radio, automobile radio. If you remember, I made a video about 3 years ago of a AM/FM cassette radio that's stashed in a briefcase with a speaker, and I used this same antenna for that. And I'll probably put a link end screen to that video at the end of this. Let me move the antenna out of the way there. Alright, let's zoom in a little. Well, do we get anything working here? Bring us everything we think we need. Filter capacitor hum. You can't see it very well, but it is lighted dial. Fine tuning here.
In the loved one entirely.
Bass, treble.
Without scripture in your hand.
Cycles 2. Call now and see how much you can save. 800-935-1268. 800-935-1268. Insure One. Big savings for all drivers. Restrictions.
Okay, push buttons don't seem to work.
Dad, can one of you help me practice parallel?
Angus beef. And we are still a collection of family ranchers
Still has good
dedicated
volume.
to raising Angus beef that is the very best.
You think you can handle this, but don't.
Answer the question here, whether you ever discussed that with him?
That's correct.
Switch to AM.
Have interactions with Mueller since his appointment. 3965. Know your numbers.
In particular, drafting the person as much as the player. And in Green's case, there really seems to be a consensus. Equal.
For Thad Young? I do.
How do you do that? How do you do that if you don't have
'Cause all of me loves all of you.
Okay, well, filter capacitors are bad. Push buttons don't work. Good volume though. Backlight still works. So this is the 1963 Mopar 331 AM/FM radio, and that FM would not have been stereo in 1963. So I was kind of surprised that it had FM at all. I think 1963 was the first year for Mopar and Chrysler to put AM/FM in their radios. Could be wrong on that. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe and check out the briefcase car radio video with the link on the end screen here of the video.